But I think we're all learning actually more communication skills because daily we're working with these agents.
Now that is Jack Herrington. You may know Jack from his YouTube channel, Blue Collar Coder, but Jack is also a prolific principal full-stack engineer, a long-time educator, and a TanStack contributor who spent decades building and teaching production-ready software. In this conversation, we go beyond surface-level framework takes and get into how real engineering decisions are being made at scale. Jack talks about why teams tried migrating to the Next.js App Router and walked away.
They just tried, budgeted like a week to do the shift and just couldn't get there, and then also couldn't see any value, so they just bailed on it.
He also explains why today he struggles to justify choosing Next.js for new projects.
It's hard to think of a reason why I would ever choose Next.js at this point.
We also get into what makes TanStack different and why its biggest advantage isn't performance or feature, but it's control.
That's not the TanStack way. The TanStack way is here, we're going to give you a set of tools and you get to set them up however you want to.
We talk about AI, not just the hype, what it actually changes for senior engineers.
AI is going to hide the pain. I don't think we're going to get any fundamental shifts in the underlying technology. We're not going to get like some new thing. Like LLMs have actually been around since like, I think the 1960s or something, 1970s. And it's just the fact that we have like amazing GPUs and amazing network speeds and all that we can go and create these mega models.
If you're thinking about framework choices, AI-driven workflows, or what senior engineering looks like in this AI-driven world right now, this conversation will challenge a lot of your assumptions. So grab a cup of coffee and let's dive right in.
I watched a lot of your conference talks. I got a chance to meet you in Portland a while ago, before I wanted to even do this YouTube thing for real, so it's actually pretty cool. And thank you so much for joining in.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to help out a fellow creator and talk tech and talk cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Especially I feel like recently your work in the TanStack ecosystem has been like really inspiring, and all your videos.
Awesome.
And I created a completely free course on my channel on TanStack Start.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, I actually looked at your videos just to verify and make sure that what I'm teaching makes sense. And that's how, what you would teach as well or recommend as well. So just wanted to make sure, just like a gut check.
Well, we should also have you in the Discord channel then too, to make sure that you can ask any questions you want and get any clarifying answers and stuff. Because Manuel and Tanner are always there for, particularly for people who want to go and teach around it. But I mean, they're very, very supportive of everybody, but, particularly teachers, I think. Yeah.
I think I'm part of the Discord channel. I need
Good. Okay.
But also I have so many Discord servers. So
I know, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Discord
it's
overflow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm super inspired by your work. So thank you so much for joining in. I guess I want to start off by asking, when did you first realize that teaching and content creation would become like a serious part of your career? Because you've been working in the industry for a very long time. You have a lot of experience and you've seen so many trends and waves, right? So
for me, I've always been teaching. So I started coding when I was 13 years old, and it was always a way for me to teach, understand more about what I was learning. Was if I could teach it to somebody else and I felt I really understood it. And actually I had a friend of mine from way back ping me, and he was like, oh, you taught me how to use variables back in the day. I'm like, what? Okay. I don't know how I would do that because I don't know how to teach variables. It's great. Who knows? But, when I really got serious about content creation was at Nike. So I was a principal engineer at Nike, which means I was kind of floating between teams, and I was doing a lot of like brown bags around, I think React hooks were becoming a thing at the time. And so I was teaching those, and I was finding myself like, well, if I could teach 20 people in a room, I could make a YouTube video, right? And then get it out to a wider audience. And that's really where the genesis of that came from, was like just that kind of thing. I mean, it's never been a revenue source or anything like that at any significant level. But it's really just about, sharing knowledge and understanding it better myself. And I really like the experience of giving a challenge myself, like, figure out this thing, or I see something really cool and I'm like, wow, I want to know how that's done, kind of thing. And then learn about it and then teach it to other folks, I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. I feel like the more you teach something, you also realize what is something that you don't know, and maybe you want to like
Absolutely.
try as well.
Yeah, because you're like, wait, why is that argument that, what is that argument? It's like, oh, okay, I got
Yeah.
to actually figure that out.
Yeah, and also like just stepping back and like thinking it from their perspective also versus
Yes.
being in the weeds. Sometimes we get like that
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
That's a huge thing, isn't it? And it's just in good a general life skill slash work skill is that kind of empathy of being able to think about things from someone else's perspective who doesn't know or who is coming at it from like a non-technical perspective, understanding how to communicate with those folks, they help you in your career. If you want to, kind of move up the chain a little bit, then, being able to talk non-technically to product managers or project managers or, like VPs or whatever, and be able to think about it in their terms and then put it into their terms. But I think we're all learning actually more communication skills because daily we're working with these agents and you can basically, it's all day type in English into an agent. Oh, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like with AI changing so much, I think it's even more important for you to know how to communicate better.
Absolutely.
Because as a senior engineer, I feel like coding is not the hardest part anymore, right? It's about
Right.
how you can communicate and think from a product mindset as well, which is like incredibly important.
Yeah, exactly. How to think, how to step back, get out of the bits and the bytes and
Mm-hmm.
get into the world of, okay, what is this thing supposed to do? And I've met so many other like senior engineers right now who are having this epiphany. Like not only are they able to get back and re-engage where they used to be doing, like lots of mentoring and whatnot, that they're actually able to get back in and do coding again
Mm-hmm.
and bring their ideas to life. But now it's like, now not only can they bring their ideas to life, they can bring it into full fruition. They can actually go and say, oh, I had this idea about, automating my home and everything, blah, 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 blah. And it gets done. It actually like the whole idea, as opposed to like, well, I could probably get, maybe 10% of this thing out. It's like, no, 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 you could do the whole thing. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess like my next question for you would be that as you've been working in an industry for so long and like you mentioned, like a principal engineer, being a really prolific, like, educator as well. So what's one belief you had in your career that completely has changed your mind, that you have completely changed your mind about right now? What's an earlier belief you had over the years?
I think the earliest belief I ever had, and I see this in a lot of, junior engineers, is that you're going to have one skill set for your entire life. You're going to have, I think for me, I was sold on C and I spent,
Mm,
I don't know, like 15 years probably writing C and C++. So, and I really thought that I was king C++, whatever coder, and I knew all the, the tricks, the copy constructors and blah, 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 and the templating and all that. And, later on, you're just like, it doesn't matter. And then I got into JavaScript and Python and Perl, and I'm like, oh, wow, I get so much more prolific in these
mhm,
and it's so much more effective. And so, yeah, just understanding that there's lots of ways to do stuff and there is no like sacrosanct perfect language or perfect environment. And so
mhm.
when I think about like folks who are like, yeah, React is, it's always going to be React forever, it's like, no, it's, maybe like I know maybe React, but like it certainly is going to be a lot of it. But like, there's good value in other frameworks. There's always cool stuff. And the other thing that I think folks they have is a thought right away is they look at code that's not their code and they almost immediately jump to, oh, this is the craziest, dumbest thing I've ever seen. What was this guy thinking when he wrote this or whatever? And I really fight that instinct. I'm always of the mind of like, okay, whoever wrote this, they had a reason and they had a reason to do it this way. And, and I've saved myself a lot of pain that way. Cause sometimes, you try to like oversimplify somebody else's code and you end up losing all the edge cases. And next thing you know, you're like, okay, I guess that guy wasn't crazy after all. That's
Yeah.
what it has to be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because also, like, I feel like the product evolves, people move, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes things are hard coded, and you're like, wait, why would someone do that? Like, I wouldn't be doing it. Well, you have the time now. So maybe they
Yeah.
didn't. Maybe they only had to do something, get it out, fix something, and
Exactly.
never got
Yeah.
the chance to go back or something like that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like one thing you learn in content is that the second time around is always better than the first time around. Like
Mm,
I speaking of AV stuff, I was recording a video yesterday, recorded the whole video, was very happy about it, and then
mm.
turned around and there was no audio. The audio was like didn't ever got recorded, It was like, oh my God, what? And then I went, so I did it again and it was way better.
Mhm.
Like the second time around, it's practice. And the second time was better and whatever, just
Yeah,
twice as long.
one thing I do is like I use ChatGPT a lot, so I use the voice feature, and I'll start
Yeah.
when I'm on walks with my dog. I walk my dog like 3 times a day, right? So I'm just like
Ooh, lucky dog.
talking to ChatGPT voice and getting all my thoughts out.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, just format it and create a script. And then later on, I'll have something.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I
what are
kind of do
some,
the something similar with Claude. When I'm in the car, I'll go and like talk to Claude about a project I'm working on, and it's amazing. It's like we're living
yeah,
in Star Trek times. It's crazy.
no, for sure. In fact, I'm actually doing that with Claude now. So I'm slowly switching. I actually canceled my ChatGPT subscription. I'm going all in on Claude.
I love me some Claude, boy. I'll tell you
Yeah,
what. Yeah,
exactly. So what are some of your weekly habits that you do them religiously over the years? Something that you truly stand by?
that's a good question.
I always like to ask this is because selfishly, because I really want to know what you do, because I feel like habits incrementally compound, right? And then that's
Yeah,
what leads to your success or anyone
yeah.
listening as well. I think that's what is, very important. So what is something that you do weekly?
I set minimum goals for myself of things that it's like I need to absolutely get this stuff done. And only if I don't get that done am I hard on myself about like not having worked hard enough or whatever. And they're not usually like crazy aggressive. The
Yeah.
reason being that like life, like maybe the dog has got to go to the vet or whatever. And it's
Hmm.
like all these unexpected things happen and, you don't get everything done that you want to. So I never like think about everything that I want to do because my God, my weeks are packed. Um, and so I don't hold myself to account except for that like kind of like minimum standard. I want to get out, a video. I want to hit this at work. I want to go and add this, get this PR landed in TanStack. Make sure that I can hit those points, and they're pretty easy usually to hit. And then I can feel good about myself because like I got that done. Like the world continues. Yeah.
I feel like there's no better feeling than just checking something off,
Yes.
at the end of the week.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So I guess like switching gears to TanStack, and I think so. You have a course on Next.js.
Yeah. The one paid course I have is well, actually, yeah, I have two paid for books, but yeah, the
Hmm.
one paid for course I have is Next.js, and now I don't do any Next.js anymore.
Yeah. So I guess that's my question for you. So I guess like if a developer were to ask you today, like when should you use TanStack over Next.js, what would you say?
I'd
Because
say
now
for
you're
any
very active in the
in the
TanStack
TanStack world.
ecosystem as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say for any new greenfield work, I would choose TanStack for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Although, there's obviously it depends. There's obviously extenuating circumstances if you've got like a huge, you know, ecosystem at your company around Next.js with libraries and support and all blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you're probably not going to fight that trend. But there's so many places that I know, like, for example, Nike.
Mm-hmm.
Nike was not able to get into the app router. And I think Walmart they probably weren't able to get into the app router. And I know, my best friend and my friends over on Frontend Fire, they tried at their company, Blues, to go onto the app router, couldn't get there. So there's a lot of folks that are still on the Pages router.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like TanStack Start, even minus the RSC support, which is coming and is freaking amazing,
Mm-hmm.
is like like a really good rethinking of the Pages router, kind of from the front the UI first, like Pages router. So it's a nice, familiar, easy pattern. It doesn't chew up bandwidth. It's very, very quick, very easy to implement on because it's got Vite underneath the hood, really good
Mm-hmm.
HMR. So it's very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's hard to think of a reason why I would ever choose Next.js at this point.
Mm-hmm. But I guess so. If you don't mind me asking, and if you can
Yeah.
share, what were some of the reasons why people couldn't migrate from Pages Router to the App Router? Because I've heard that before as well. Because the transition can be very tricky. First of all, you
Yeah.
have to convince the entire company, like developers, to adopt this newer model with like caching and all that. So I think there
Hmm.
be some challenges there. So what were the reasons?
Yeah, certainly the first release of the App Router was overly aggressively cached.
Mm,
And that really tripped a lot of folks up where, they weren't expecting that they would go back to a page and they would hit it and it would be like, wait, we changed this data and it's not changing. The other thing was really understanding the RSC slash client flow, and where things are going to be a client component, the donut problem of like client code. Can it have RSCs in it and blah, 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 blah. People just couldn't like wrap their heads around that. And
mhm,
even if they did, there didn't really seem to be much advantage in it. At the end of the day, like you weren't actually getting much out of it. So that's, I think a lot of folks ended up, at least I know like the Blues example, like they just tried and tried and tried. They budgeted like a week to do the shift and just couldn't get there. And then also couldn't see any value having, if they ended up getting there, they just bailed on it.
yeah. And I guess other than the obvious like migration to the app router, like what is it that I guess in terms of TanStack, why are you betting on TanStack? Like what makes it special? I mean, obviously I know the answer, but those listening, because I created a course on it and I'm totally sold and I love it.
Oh,
So yeah.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, yeah. I just love the model. The model works for me. The model of I like to think of it as this really nice shallow gradient ramp of complexity. It's like, okay, if you want to start off with a couple of code routes and do a full spa, cool, you can do that with the TanStack router. And then,
Mm-hmm,
I want to, maybe I want file routes now. I want to be able to handle it that way. Okay, now you add the file router, which is an incremental boost. You don't need to actually, I mean, sure you're going to be you're going to be moving around, content, but that's probably the most dramatic shift, right? You're not actually like changing how things are working. And then it's like,
mm-hmm,
oh, okay, maybe I need some API routes.
mm-hmm,
Cool. Now you can just go and add an API route in there with Start, or you can go and use a server function. And the server functions are really good. So if we can talk about that. And then if you don't like that, if you want some more than that, then there's SSR, and there's 3 different ways to do SSR, where there are only 2 different ways to do SSR with the Pages Router. There's this data only mode that we added with TanStack Start, which is really underrated and super cool.
mm-hmm,
So it's just this nice, everything about the way that we do stuff on TanStack is like there's these great gradient routes. It's like we never ask you to go and just throw out everything that you've done before
mm-hmm,
to shift to the next thing, which I
mm-hmm,
really appreciate. It's very, yeah, I guess in a way I never really feel like the next the Vercel approach is benefiting me as the developer, right? Their ideas are more towards like, how can we optimize getting more bandwidth out of these applications so that we can justify to our investors that, blah, 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 and make, gazillion, billion, whatever. It ain't about
mm-hmm,
me. It's not about my stuff. It's about them and their profit margins. And
mm-hmm,
whereas TanStack is about developers helping developers, and
mm-hmm,
developers don't want to give developers a hard time, and because they're developers too, right? And so, yeah, that's why I like it. And yeah, kind of circling back around, like server functions, I know there's been a lot about CVEs coming out of Next.js recently. The server functions that are vulnerable in the app router, those are not we do not use those server functions, so we are
mm-hmm,
not vulnerable in that way. I know that they're both called server functions, but the
right.
TanStack implementation of server functions is completely bespoke, which is actually
Mm,
something that I was kind of doubtful on early on, was like,
mm,
or why are we doing our own server functions? But
mm,
they allow you a lot more control. You can have server functions that are on get, as an example.
mm,
So if you're doing like a CDN thing where you need good caching, or just caching in general, then
mhm,
you can make your server functions, or get methods, which
mhm,
is great. There's input validators. It's just a really good architecture for server
mhm,
functions. It's way more robust than the Next.js version. or the
Mhm.
really the React version.
Right.
And ta-da, it's also secure, which is great because we're not doing crazy stuff like evaluating flight payloads that come in.
Yeah, for sure. What I also like about TanStack is that, and I think as developers, we don't want, I guess, people to push their opinions on us, right? We want to decide and we
Yes.
want to control it, right? So what I really
Yes.
liked it after building a e-commerce app and a couple other apps as well is that everything is opt-in, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you want
Yeah.
server
Yeah.
functions? Cool. Let's
Yeah.
use them. Do you want input validators? Here, Zod is an option. Do you want caching or data only or spam mode or whatever, right? All that is just something that is all like opt-in only option, right? Versus I feel like the reason why Next.js sort of got into a lot of controversy is because a lot of opinions were pushed on us, I guess, in a way.
Yes. Well, particular how the RSC structure works and all of that. It's like the whole page gets rendered, kiddo, and it's going to be 4 times the size that it used to be with the Pages router, and you're like, can I opt out of this? Like, nope. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I remember like the reaction early on saying, yeah, we'll figure that out. Never did. And it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And you're like, yeah, so it pushes you down these lines and it pushes you in a very hard way. You're right. I mean, that's exactly it. It's like they've got an opinion that then they're really, really, really serious about that opinion and they want to push you that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the TanStack way. The TanStack way is here, we're going to give you a set of tools and you get to set them up however you want to. We're going to show you how we set them up. But
Mm-hmm.
you get to take those primitives and put them together any way you please. Right?
What I also really like about TanStack is I sort of think of it as Lego pieces, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You just take whatever Lego pieces you like and you
Yeah.
build your application, and TanStack will give you like the power of tools that you need. Versus I feel like with Next.js, I think it has gotten opinionated, although in the later versions people can opt out or whatever. But I think that's where I feel like it got into a lot of controversy as well.
Yeah, and the other thing is deployment, right? So
Right.
obviously Next.js deploys really easily on Vercel. Go
Mm,
figure. But it doesn't really deploy easily in Docker world. Like getting a Next.js app, like particularly App Router app,
mhm,
Dockerized and working to the extent that you would have it on Vercel with all the ISR and the caching and all that sort of stuff is
mhm,
a lot of work. I remember Lee Rob did a video on it, and it was like a 40-minute video of like tons of work to get this done. And it's like, ugh, are you kidding me? And
mhm,
then, we on the TanStack side, we've got adapters. They're just Vite adapters. Like they're just
mhm,
standard kind of Vite adapters that go and get you to Nitro, which gets you pretty much everywhere. And then there's specific ones for like Cloudflare
mhm.
and Netlify and so it's just incredibly easy. You can go and put it wherever it is that you want to go put it. You want to put it on your NAS, no problem. You want to go put it on a, Raspberry Pi, no problem. Like, you want to
Yeah,
put it on EC2, no problem.
yeah, for sure. And is TanStack still using Nitro? TanStack Start?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's our default option coming out of the builder. So
Okay, I
actually,
see. That's what I thought too, but I received a comment recently being like, Nitro is no longer in the picture or something. And I'm like,
really,
"Oh."
well, we did change off of what was it we had on early on? It was like anyway, there was a technology that we like mid last year got off of, and
Mm,
it wasn't Nitro. Yeah, and I think we learned our lesson on that one, and we didn't like buy in as hard on Nitro. So we
mm,
always have kind of a shim layer between us and the Cloudflare slash Netlify slash Nitro. We don't buy into any of those
mhm,
adapters
mhm,
wholesale.
mhm. No, that makes sense. So I guess like I would love to talk about AI.
Yes.
Data and Stack AI is in
Yeah.
play as well. So one thing I want to ask you again, I guess based on your experience, because you may have seen so many trends, right? Is that what parts of, I guess, front end development, web development do you think AI will never fully replace? Because I receive this question almost on a daily basis where a lot of folks are like scared of AI, which makes sense, right? So, but people I don't know where they should invest their time in. So I would love to know what is something that AI will never fully replace, you think?
I don't think it's going to ever fully replace any of it because I've run into a number of situations where you just can't, you can't Wiggum loop Claude into getting this thing right. And so you end up having to go and like actually kind of push it over the line a little bit, go into the code again. Whoa, crazy. And then
Yeah.
get it to go, push it over the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't ever see it completely replacing it. Maybe that's a little naive, but I would say I don't think you're gonna do well by trying to hide from it. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not, and I don't think companies are looking for people to hide from AI. I think they're looking for people who can intelligently leverage AI to accelerate their development. So, as an example, I work at Netlify now, and Matthias was like, "I haven't coded, since the beginning of the year. I set myself a challenge to not, code at all directly and you only use agents." And they've been doing it. And he's been doing it, and it works because they are really good. Like Opus 4.5 is really, really good. But
Mm-hmm.
you will, all of those skills that you learned about how to architect code well, how to go and test well, how to go and break down a problem into pieces, and then step by step by step, use the tool to go and implement on each of those pieces and learn and adapt as you build out each one of those.
Mm-hmm.
All of those tools that you in your head that you've learned, those are all going to advantage you as you build out with AI. But I don't think
Mm-hmm.
there's any place that you can go into where it's like, oh, I'm going to learn this skill and AI is never going to replace this particular skill. Where I just, there's nothing like,
Mm-hmm.
it's never going to not make an impact in certain skill, any
Mm-hmm.
skill.
Yeah, for sure. I also feel like someone has to review what AI did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there will always be folks there. So I think the more you leverage AI and show how you use Claude code or agents and how do you be more productive, you can stay on top of trends. I think that would definitely help you differentiate you for sure.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about like, I've really worked just particularly over since the beginning of the year, um, to use Claude through almost every element of my life. Like we always do this thing where it's my thing for Christmas time where I go and make cinnamon rolls for my, neighbors and all that. And we have this, you
I
know,
want
uh, oh, yeah. Um, I had this family recipe. I'd gone and done a couple of passes on it and changed the ingredients. And then I threw it in front of Claude, and Claude was like, "Oh, they could probably use more butter and blah 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 blah." And
Mhm,
so I took Claude's suggestions, and it was even way better. And then so I used Claude for cooking, and then I started like, oh well, man, I want to do like an office reorganization, like so I
mhm,
started like working on audio stuff and like Claude was a huge help in getting audio stuff together. And I wanted to change out the lights. And it was a huge help in getting the lighting stuff together. And then how do you organize the underneath of your table? And it's just crazy. And then like my wife was, we had an anniversary dinner. I'm like, hey, Claude, was a good, place in town. It's super helpful for that. So I end up like
yeah,
using Claude for like everything, man. It's crazy. Yeah. And I've learned so much. Like I had this fear of soldering. Like I don't like soldering. It's like this thing. It's goopy, all the, I feel discombobulated and blah 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 blah. And I asked Claude, like, I gotta do this. I gotta solder this stuff together. Can you help me like I'm 5, teach me how to
mm,
solder?
yeah,
And it was step by step, no stupid questions, bang, bang, bang. And now I'm like, oh man, like what can I solder? This is cool. Like I know how to
mhm,
solder now,
yeah,
like I'm thinking out projects that I can solder because I like it so much. It's crazy. Like, how does
yeah.
that happen?
That's so
So yeah,
cool.
don't fear the AI. Embrace
Yeah.
the AI.
Yeah. No, 100%. I also feel like recently, like, a friend of mine, she just like, she and I were not agreeing on a specific thing. And we just pulled out like Claude code and we just got Claude to like resolve our conflict. And we were like,
Yeah,
this is what she's trying to say. And this is what she's trying to say. And this is how y'all can get to a mutual understanding. And it wasn't even like a big conflict, but it was
yeah,
something where
yeah.
I wasn't really understanding what the other person was trying to communicate for them as well. And I'm like, I really love you as a friend, but I don't know what you're trying to tell me. And literally doing that, AI was able to help us resolve that, which
That's
is pretty
amazing.
awesome versus like grievances and like going away
That's
or whatever.
awesome. Claude as a relationship therapist. I'm in. I'm in. Yes, let's do this.
Yeah. Well, those listening, you should get a therapist if you really want to. Don't use that for all of us. But
I've
yeah.
used it a little bit for that, but I understand the issues around it, and in particular, like it is very much a yes bot.
Yeah.
You have to prompt it to say like you have to prompt it to be critical. It's like
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I want you to tell me if I'm full of it here.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is getting back into the tech side for a second, like
Yeah.
using Claude up front is really underrated. If you've got an idea for a like, oh, I'm gonna go make this, app that does blah 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 blah. Just go to Claude and say, hey, is this already a filled thing, or is the who would actually use this and critical, and don't give me all that
Mhm.
um it'll help you. It'll help you like understand the space. Like the research mode on Claude is the other thing that we learned this the hard way actually on TanStack AI, which
Mhm.
was we were going from our initial release that had just like chat basically, and then we
Mhm.
want to go and add image, video, text to speech, speech to text, a whole bunch of modalities. And Tanner and Alan were like, okay, I got this idea of having this like one AI function just called AI.
Mm.
And, you give it a model and then it would automatically infer from the model that this was going to be a text to speech thing or this was going to be whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm not really big on polymorphic interfaces. And they're like, no, 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 it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm like, okay, all right. So, we'll try. Anyway, 6 days later of like trying to battle with TypeScript and blah, 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 blah. And okay. And I'm like, I don't know, guys, this is kind of right. And yeah, I'm not really big on polymorphic functions, but they're like, no, 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 it's going to be good. So we go through like 6 whole days of like fighting with or watching AI not be able to do this well. And finally, I was like, okay, step back. And I took like an API of if we were to go and have a generate image function coming out of TanStack AI, as opposed to
Mhm.
this AI function,
Mhm.
and I gave like 2 examples and gave it to Claude and gave it to all the frontier models and said, which one
Mhm.
would you prefer? Which one would dispassionately, which one would you like your friend,
Yeah.
play the dispassionate. And
Mm.
100%, they all came back with generate image. Just tell us what it is you want us to do, right? I mean, use the function name that actually makes sense. And so we ended up rolling out that feature. We ended up rolling out that never ever putting out that AI function and just having generate image and generate video and making it very clear. And so, yeah, using AI like that up front can save you a lot of that hassle. The other
Mhm.
thing that we learned from that was AI is going to hide the pain. Like as an example, as engineers, like when we try to like roll something out, like when we try to like actually code something, if it's not working, if TypeScript isn't digging it, if the compiler isn't digging it, like there's a pain point there, right? And so the AI actually is going to hide that from you, and you don't get that instinctive like, ooh, this is hard to do, right? So you really have to watch out for that. Watch out, like because the AI will try to go and give you what you want, even when what you want is crazy.
Yeah. I feel like pretty much right now world is our oyster. Like we could do like whatever we want, any ideas we want to build as well. Like I
Yeah,
have built so many little apps just for myself that have turned into products later on that I've just shared it with other folks, right? And they are using it. But I've used mainly AI for that. Like even like links at the bottom of the newsletter, for example, to say, do you like the newsletter or not? I just got AI to generate an app for me and build it, right? Obviously, I shared what I wanted and all that. So I feel like the more you embrace it, like you said, it will be better for you versus being scared of it or whatever. And like one thing I also got from you was also like, I think engineers could also use it as like for critical thinking as well as they're designing APIs, as they're thinking like how we could improve the specific function or what are some of the complexities there. I think that would help as well. Versus in the past, without AI, it was you had to pick someone else's brain or get their time to do so. Now you have all the power in your computer to do so. Just amazing.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like I was just thinking that it's kind of like an Aladdin's lamp.
Yeah.
You can basically ask it for anything. But Aladdin's lamp is a parable. It's like, there's an upside and a downside to Aladdin's
Yeah.
lamp, and you gotta play the Aladdin's lamp game of like, do you really want this? And
Yeah.
the nice thing is that you can talk to AI about it, and it's much more iterative than Aladdin. You don't only get 3 wishes, but you just have to be careful with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I guess the other question would be before we jump on to the rapid fire round,
Yeah.
that one last question on AI. What do you think is the future of AI? Like, what do you predict in this year and next year in terms of AI? And because again, like I said, this is another question I get every day in terms of
Yeah.
AI. So, like, what do you think? What are your perspectives?
I don't think we're going to get any fundamental shifts in the underlying technology. We're not going to get like some new thing. LLMs have actually been around since like, I don't think the 1960s or something,
Mm,
1970s.
wow,
And it's
I didn't
just
know
the
that.
fact that we have like amazing GPUs and amazing network speeds and all that we can go and create these mega models.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to see the model shift. I think we're going to start to see things like a lot more use of sub agents, a lot more use of local LLMs, a lot more powerful local LLMs. So
Mm,
things like 7B models, stuff like that. Those are going to start like really taking off.
yeah.
Because then you can embed those. You can put those on like a Raspberry Pi, that kind of stuff. So you're gonna see a lot more local models, a lot less on or a lot more judicious use of the frontier models like Opus and all that. Like currently, I
Mm-hmm.
just use Opus for everything, right? But that's not sustainable, like in any long term way.
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely going to see very hyper focused models. I'm working on TanStack about like maybe training some like 7B models or 3B models to like be good form makers, so that like we could say, okay, go and make this form for us. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing that I think is going to be, here's one that I know is going to be huge over the next year or 2 years, and it's probably going to revolutionize stuff, is this thing called code mode. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
No.
um, this is something that Sunil over at Cloudflare talked about.
So
And I
nearby?
know, what's that?
Is it,
Yeah,
is this
Sunil Pai.
nearby?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And he's awesome, by the way. Just
Yeah. He's
amazing. Just
amazing.
incredible guy. Sunil talked about it. And I know the Anthropic folks have been doing some fun. I think actually now you can kind of see it in Claude as they're rolling it out. The idea is that you give the LLM just the ability to execute TypeScript with a whole bunch of
Yeah.
injected functions, and
Yeah.
then it can go and actually build out a script dynamically for you that ends up doing what you want. And then the output of that script is like whatever goes back into the messages. So as an example, let's say that you give it the ability to like hit up GitHub and NPM and you ask it for a report on what are the most popular projects right now. It can
Mm-hmm.
go off and do a lot of queries and a lot of cool stuff and then come up with all the data that then goes back into the messages, and then it actually like can generate the report from that. And it
Mm,
can do that on the fly. It's kind of hard to describe, but when you see it in action, you're like, oh my God, this is the future. So yeah, I think
awesome.
code mode is going to be like a huge impact over the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely I'll look into that. That's actually very cool. Yeah. Is there
Yeah, it
any
is really cool.
yeah, you should
Yeah,
if there's any link or whatever, let me know if you can share it. I'll also link it
sure.
down in the description
Yeah,
below
yeah.
for folks to check out as well. Because that's awesome. And I truly agree. That's the case. All right. So now we can switch gears and have some
Woohoo!
fun with a rapid fire segment. I'm gonna ask you a series of quick questions and you just have to answer them as fast as possible.
Okay.
Again, no pressure. This is just for fun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cats or dogs?
Dogs, 100%.
Yes. Dan Ambermouse said cats. And I'm like, what?
Oh, stop it.
No.
Stop it.
Yeah. And
No.
my
I'm
dog just rolled his eyes.
I'm not I'm not in fact, I am not a purebred dog fan at all. Like I don't like my domain that we've had since, oh my God, like 30 years now is muttmansion.com, because we
Mm,
consider ourselves mutts, and we have a house and we always have mutts, and my current mutt is amazing, but whatever. Yes, huge dog fan. Huge dog fan.
mm. You should send me a photo of your dog. I'll send you
Oh
mine
yeah.
as because
Oh
I
yes.
love dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What's a library you absolutely love? You can say
Zustand.
Tanzania. Sorry.
Zustand.
Okay. Awesome. If you weren't a developer, what would you be doing?
I would be a mechanical engineer.
Wow, very cool.
3D printing and CNC and CAD in like a huge way. And I love it because it exercises like a different set of my brain cells. The other thing is that Claude is not good at CAD. It's really, really
Really?
bad. Yes, it's really
Wow.
bad. So it's one of those things where it's like, nope, this is one thing I have to do by hand again. I can get all kinds of recommendations from it about what it should look like. And I can give it screenshots and be like, what do you think about this? But if you ask it to like actually CAD out something, it cannot think like 3D spatially at all. So, but yeah, just like, thinking about something and then walking over to the printer a couple hours later and holding it in your hand, and you're like, that's really cool. That's the world oyster, physically and in virtual space.
Yeah, for sure. I also feel like it's so cool that whatever we want to learn, we can just learn now. There's
Yeah.
nothing stopping us. Like there's no boot
Right?
camp to go to, or university to go to. Just learn because you
Yeah.
love it.
And just ask any question you want, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's just you're only limited by the questions and your creativity.
Exactly. Plus, you know how you like don't ask dumb questions. I feel like for junior devs specifically, or even anyone really, right?
Yeah.
There are no dumb questions. You can ask whatever you want. Like explain it, get AI to explain it like a million times if you don't get it, which is also
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You see in Slack, somebody's like, oh, we need to use blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, I can't really ask what that is because, oh man, they would think that I don't know anything. So you go over to
yeah,
Claude and you're like, paste it in. You're like, hey, Claude, what does any of this crap mean? And then
yeah,
Claude's like, oh, well, here's the lowdown. And as you say, you can just keep on asking it questions like, oh, I don't, well, okay, what does that mean?
yeah.
I think I did that with change sets just recently. We just moved over to change sets, and I was like, I don't know, change set, like whatever. It walked me through the whole thing. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, I get it now. Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if I forget it a week from now, it's gonna be like, oh, just hit it up again.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one thing that I wish was better about the Claude desktop was its search of previous
Mm,
conversations is not good.
mm,
Yeah,
I
but
see. I
yeah.
don't use the desktop app. I should check it out for sure.
Oh, the desktop app is great. And then,
Really?
there's
Okay.
also like the mobile app so you can talk to it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, one last question.
No, okay. I
What
love these.
Yeah, what's an AI tool that will actually save you time?
I mean, Claude, but let me try and get more creative than that. Shoot. For me, it was one I'm building recently that's actually going to mine through news of like front end stuff. Yeah, that's going to save me a lot of time because yeah, I really want to be able to wake up in the morning and get like here's all the stuff that happened overnight. Here's the PRs that came out on blah 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 blah. And so yeah, working
Yeah.
on that.
Well, awesome. Well, that was a wrap for rapid fire as well.
Okay,
And for you too. Well, thank you so much for answering all the questions. I think we went over a lot. Before you go, I want to ask you, like, is there something you want to promote or share or anything like that about any of the stuff you're working on? I'm happy to link them down below. I'll also include it in my newsletter as well. Yeah, let me know. What is it?
awesome. Yeah, so of course, go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's the Jack Herrington channel / Blue Collar Coder channel up on YouTube. The Front End Fire podcast, where TJ and Paige and I talk about new front end stuff every week. That's really great. And then
Uh-huh.
also jump on TanStack and jump on TanStack AI. I'm telling you, the water's fine. And again, I think we pretty much cover all of the major vendors that you'd want. And there's good stuff coming. Believe me, there's really good stuff coming.
For sure, yeah. I'll definitely link them down below as well. This way people can just click and subscribe to all these wonderful resources. What I
Thank
also
you.
love about TanStack, I'm also going to say, is Tanner himself, because
Yes.
he has an eye on everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing because as a creator myself, like if I know that Tanner knows my work, he's invested in it, I want to create more good stuff for the ecosystem, right? Because
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
know my work is recognized and also like, it's going to be shared and watched because that's the goal of being a creator, right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome that,
He's just a really great guy, you know? And yeah, like we kind of become fast friends over all of this. And yeah, no, it's really good to see. And yeah, I'm just really TanStack has become what kind of reinvigorated me about tech. Now, for a
Mhm.
while there, I think I was kind of like, oh, just another, whatever DB, blah, 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 blah. And then getting into TanStack was probably the best thing I've ever done for my career. There's people are so across the board wonderful to work with and just really helpful and fun and just great people.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again.